HBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis. It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Look up on the wall, there on the floor, under the pillow.
Welcome in on this fantastic Friday. I am Landon Schmidt for the final day, filling in for good old Dave Woloshin, who will be back with us this coming Monday. And something a while ago that I told Dave about that he did not mention is, Jay, do you know who sings Wolo's Open?
This I do not know.
That would be none other than the rock and roll legend Phil Collins.
I didn't know that was a Phil Collins jam.
That's definitely Phil Collins. He is one of the most recognizable voices in my life. The mastermind behind the Tarzan soundtrack, In the Air Tonight, Another Day in Paradise.
That man was the soundtrack of my childhood without question in the 80s. It seemed like I think he was on the radio probably like 40% of the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the dude had hit after hit after hit. Well, as you know, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Genesis made it a long time ago, which, of course, was the famous band that Phil Collins was a part of. Phil Collins himself, as a solo artist, this past April, he himself made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I tried to tell Dave, I said, Phil Collins is your opener. We got to give this dude some flowers. He just made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by his own accord.
Absolutely, and he hadn't been doing too well physically as a
no, he is not. So it's great that he got the accolades that he did at the time in his life that he did get them, because you talk about a guy who's got a recognizable voice, recognizable songs just everywhere. When a Phil Collins song comes on, it's a Phil Collins song. But that is just a quick shout out that I like to give to Phil Collins before we forget once again that we have to give him his flowers that are very much due to him and the great rock and roll career that he has had in his life. So, with the limited time that we have today, we're going to be talking a lot more about the NBA with Andy Schiffman. I believe we'll have Jonah Dillon later on to wrap up today's show. But first and foremost, this is the thing I've been talking about basically all week long, because it is one of the biggest stories going on in the world of the sports, and that is the World Cup. And once again, I am finding and I am loving all of these arbitrary stats that are coming to light with the World Cup. Since the construction of MetLife Stadium, if you don't know where that is the stadium for the New York Jets and the New York Giants that they share up in New Jersey, of all places. Would you like to guess how many combined playoff wins that the New York Jets and Giants have in MetLife Stadium?
Are we talking games that were actually played, playoff games that were actually played in MetLife Stadium, or their time as tenants in MetLife Stadium?
Played in MetLife Stadium.
0.
1.
Okay, I was close.
Combined playoff wins for those two teams is 1.
And that's the Jets win, huh?
I believe it was. It was either them or I'm more inclined to believe that it was the Giants, because you have those Eli Manning years.
I'm trying to think exactly which it was the Giants.
I think it had to have been, because it had to be those Giants years with Eli Manning.
Because I think they only made it once or twice with Eli as a part of MetLife. Because they were in the old Giant Stadium when they won the other two.
Yeah.
They were in the Meadowlands. But I figured it out.
So, combined 1 for them. Would you like to take a guess at how many World Cup wins France has inside of MetLife Stadium?
Like 4.
1. They have 1. They have their first time playing in MetLife Stadium. They have a win.
That's the win.
And it is taken however many years that MetLife has been constructed that the New York Jets and the Giants have a combined 1 playoff win within MetLife Stadium. I mean, this is a stat that nobody needs. This is a stat that nobody really cares about, but I just find it interesting.
It was the second Super Bowl that they won. They got a home win.
Yeah, home court advantage on that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that's what it was too. So if you recall yesterday, Jay, I was giving you a stat line. I threw shade at Derek Carr, who has only 1 win at Arrowhead Stadium.
10 tries, right.
Well, something came to light more so with that of there's a bigger list of QBs that have less wins inside of Arrowhead Stadium than Messi's 2 right now. The list grew exponentially. Here is who Messi has more wins than,
This should be good.
quarterback-wise, inside of Arrowhead Stadium. He has more wins than Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Eli Manning, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, and Joe Montana.
Okay, now, I do remember the one Joe Burrow win. That was the AFC Championship game.
Uh-huh.
And they beat them twice that year, but the second time, or the first time they beat them in Cincinnati at the end of the season.
Yeah.
What was the other names?
It was, so you had Joe Burrow, you had Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Eli Manning, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, and Joe Montana. Notable quarterbacks that have less wins inside of Arrowhead Stadium than Lionel Messi.
Montana was a home quarterback in Arrowhead Stadium for a period.
Was that Arrowhead Stadium though, or was that that was somewhere else?
That was still it was with the Chiefs. It's always been Arrowhead.
Well, you can take it up with CBS Sports because that's
But
where I found
as
this.
an opponent, I can get where they're coming from.
But this is what CBS Sports had listed for us is those big name quarterbacks. Let's see.
I think the Chiefs won a division with Montana. Maybe once, maybe more than once. I think.
Hold on. We're looking at it. Oh, I was wrong. That's not Joe Montana. That's Steve Young.
Okay, that
I just
makes
immediately
sense.
saw 49ers quarterback, and they kind of looked the same, so I went with Joe Montana. It's
Montana
Steve
wore
Young.
16, Steve Young wore 8, half and half. So
Well, and so that I don't know if you can see that picture. Whoop,
yeah,
there it is.
okay.
But
yeah.
they literally have him hidden behind Joe
and then
Burrow's
he got
head.
his helmet on.
And he has his, that's the only guy in full uniform. We couldn't get Steve Young looking different from anybody else. So that's Steve Young, the other famous 49ers quarterback.
And he only saw them once every 4 years.
Yeah. So there's definitely a catch with us, but I just think it's interesting to note that these are quarterbacks who only have one or less wins inside of Arrowhead Stadium.
And you said Marino was on that list too?
Dan Marino.
That's interesting too, because AFC East, AFC West in that time, and he was probably seeing a lot of Marty Scheidenheimer's Kansas City Chiefs. Well, it was a tough crew.
Yeah.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s.
It was.
Yeah.
I think of all the people on that list, Dan Marino's up there is very surprising, and Aaron Rodgers too.
Once every 4 years for Aaron.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
He's got to win, but
It's
Messi
not
has
more than
to.
one.
Messi has to, and I think that was the majority rules. So, apologies on that for not recognizing the difference between Joe Montana and Steve Young. Growing up, I loved Steve Young as a quarterback, but yeah. Just an interesting stat line. Once again, an arbitrary stat line. It doesn't affect anything. Nobody really needs to know any of that. But interesting nonetheless. So, in the full slate of games that we had yesterday, the first one we had the Czech Republic taking on South Africa. It would be Michael Sadalik who would give the Czech Republic an early lead just 6 minutes within that game. And they were in control for a majority of it, but couldn't really get anything else on the board. And it would be Mokoena from South Africa who would be much later in the game would get them a goal off of a penalty kick, I believe it was, or some kind of free kick that would bounce back with a goal of their own. That was the only draw that we saw yesterday was between the Czech Republic and South Africa. And once again, I didn't find them for all of these teams, but I did find the squad value of these two teams as well. And I love the guessing games that we play. So you want to take a guess at how much the Czech Republic, how much their squad is worth? I'll give you a hint. It doesn't come close to Portugal's, which was 1.17 billion.
Yeah. Okay, let's go 15 million.
15 million's a little low for them. I don't think I'd be surprised if there was a squad out there that was worth just 15 million.
Right.
Because even what was it?
Granted, what we talking about?
Yeah, because DR Congo was still even worth over 100 million.
Right.
Czech
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, Czech Republic is worth $215.9 million in their squad. Any idea how much South Africa's is worth? Now, South Africa is the lowest number that I have seen so far.
125 million.
Even way less than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Less than 100?
Yeah. Almost half of 100.
Really?
They're only worth $56.5 million. which next time if I ever get to a place where I'm able to reveal all of these squad values, I'm going to find who's the most expensive. I'm willing to bet it might be either Argentina or Portugal. Portugal is just unreal. $1.17 billion is ridiculous. But South Africa right now is in the lead for what I have seen to be the lowest squad value amount of really any of these teams. So kind of low on the spectrum for both of these guys, but still good matchups all the way around. For the fact that these guys are pulling out draws against these teams has got to be a point of it's got to be a point of pride with these guys to be able to pull those off. So next up after that, you had Switzerland that took on Bosnia, and I would like to have said that this was the most lopsided matchup, but next we have the most lopsided match in the World Cup, probably in recent memory, and might be for the duration of this World Cup until proven otherwise. But it would be Johan Manzambi. He would score twice in Switzerland's effort and their big win over Bosnia. I can't believe I don't have the score written down. It was like 4-1, I believe. Something like that. Here, I'm going to look at it real quick. They won, 4-1. 4-1. Switzerland completely took care of Bosnia in that game. Really not a competition for them. The only thing outside of Bosnia's one goal is they also had a red card in that game. But fortunately for them, that was still not the worst performance of the night. The last two games from yesterday, both of them were home cooking. You had Canada that was playing in Vancouver, and then you had Mexico that played in the heart of Guadalajara. So first, you had Canada. Canada dominated this game, and it wasn't even close. And this is the kicker for how incredible this game was. Their 6-goal performance was their best in World Cup history by a mile. In their past 76 plus years combined, Canada has a total of 3 goals in World Cup. Last night, they doubled that.
And they got their first win.
Unbelievable. 6-0 over Qatar, a hat-trick performance from Jonathan David. Meanwhile, Qatar recorded not one, but 2 red cards in that game, one of them very early, giving Qatar a very much of a disadvantage to start that game very early on in that competition. So huge, I guess, maple leafs to the Canadian team, who just absolutely dominated that game last night. And then we had the last game of the night in Mexico and South Korea. Now, this one had a lot of stakes on the line. Mexico came into this game already with a chance to move on to the knockouts and basically clinch Class A or Group A. South Korea was also in that same boat as they had defeated the Czech Republic earlier 2-1. Mexico already having a win over South Africa, winning 2-0. So the number 1 spot was up for grabs for Group A in this game. And overall, this game was really, really competitive. I don't know if you've gone and watched the highlights. I would highly recommend watching the highlights of this game because you saw some insane saves from these people. Mexico had a goalie out of position, and we had basically the backflip Pele kick style of a soccer player out there saving a goal, and then it was just one small little mistake from South Korea's goalie, who, in the way that you look at it, and the best way to describe it, got a little bit overambitious. He went into a group of people, tried to grab the ball, came down a little bit too hard. It popped up out of his hands. Mexico capitalized on it, scored the goal. It was the only goal that was scored, but it was the goal that was needed to win this game. And so now for Mexico in their World Cup history, they have won their past 3 games, which is the first time they've ever done that in World Cup history. Now you're probably sitting there and saying, wait a second, this World Cup, they've only played 2 games so far. They're 2-0. Well, don't fret. You have to go back to the last time that Mexico played, which was back in 2022 when they defeated Saudi Arabia 2-1. So it is a little bit of a pull, but it is a stat line nonetheless that they have won their past 3 games as this Mexican team goes on to advance to the stage of 32 and is now has the right securing themselves a knockout game right in the heart of Mexico City. So you saw how impressive it was to see this team perform in Guadalajara. Now they have the incredible fortune of playing in Mexico City for the game that, quote unquote, really, really matters, because this is when we start to get to the knockout round. This is when we start to get to the games that is do or die for all of these people. So This is going to be really, really interesting. But honestly speaking, and I'm not trying to take anything away from any of these kind of people, but none of that means anything because today is the big day of where United States finally returns to the pitch in Seattle and takes on Australia. And I've been seeing a lot of things out there, Jay. Been seeing a lot of memes. I've been seeing a lot of videos about when the United States national anthem ends, what song plays for Australia? What song is the Australian national anthem? Is it Down Under by Men at Work? Of course, this is satire. This is not real. But the other one that I've seen in contention is the Bluey theme song.
I mean, the Bluey theme song is always a winner, but I mean, you can't go wrong with the Man Down Under, though.
I mean, the Men at Work song is the Australian song of all time. And so
80s classic, right?
It would be hilarious if they actually did play that over the speakers at Seattle Stadium, the home of the 12th man, and they start doing that. I mean, you're talking about an entire stadium that's about to break out into song and jive and have a great time with that. But regardless, they will actually play their country's theme song. Of course, was a joke. I don't mean to offend anybody, especially any Australians that might be listening. Yeah. I love Australia. I played a lot of rugby, met a lot of Australians. Actually know a family in Australia, the Whitakers. You probably have no idea who I am anymore, but you guys own a 500-plus acre plot of land, and you guys have huge bulldozers and everything. So I actually know my Australian peeps out there from the land down under. But United States taking on Australia at 2 o'clock this afternoon in Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington. And then we have some other games that are fairly important as well, but not as nearly important as that one as U.S. takes on Australia. Next, we'll have Scotland taking on Morocco at 5 o'clock. They play inside of Gillette Stadium. Brazil taking on Haiti in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's definitely going to be even though it is technically in the midst of summer over here, it's still got to be a bit of a culture shock for Brazilians to go up there and play inside of Philadelphia. And then the last game of the day, late tonight at 10 o'clock, and is between Turkey and Paraguay. And I saw the scenarios that would help the United States absolutely clinch that number one spot. And I believe, which group are they? Are they Group C or something like that? I'll have to double check what class they're in. Actually, I might be able to find out right now. They are in... Okay, so we got Group A, Group B. Nope, they're not good. I was off by one. They're Group D. Group D is United States, Australia, Turkey, and Paraguay. Because United States already has a win over Paraguay, if United States beats Australia and Turkey if Paraguay, I believe, beats Turkey, that helps the United States clinch that number one spot for Group D and gives them puts them in a pretty position when they inevitably go to the round of 32 in that knockout round in the World Cup. So before we advance on and shift our conversation to the NBA, talking all things with our agent from Priority Sports up in Chicago. I mean, who better to talk about the hiring of Tiago Splitter than with the man who's all over the Chicago Bulls and Andy Schiffman. We got to give you a quick U.S. Open update. It is proving today so far that the course is just a little bit harder. Yesterday afternoon, when I was talking with Brian, we were looking at this U.S. Open scoreboard, and we were seeing how incredible it was that one break we would see one outright winner or person in first place, and then the next we would have like a 7-way tie for first place in all of these people. It's been crazy how amazing this has been fluctuating all day long. But right now our outright leader is still Wyndham Clark through 11 today. He is +1 on the day, but under 5 in totality on this very difficult course. Who they have at number 2 at the top of the T2 position, who is 2 under par right now, is William Mouw, Mouw. I'm telling you, the beautiful thing about the PGA tournament this year is the amount of names of people that you have certainly, unless you're just a golf aficionado and you are all over the sport,
Right.
you don't know these names.
Yeah.
If you're just a guy who's going into the golf world and maybe you've been around a little bit, sure, you've heard of a Justin Rose, you've heard of a Xander Schauffele, a Colin Morikawa, a Justin Thomas, Rory, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick especially, but you don't have, I don't want to say that you don't have anything on William Mao, but you don't have anything on William Mao.
Nah.
Nobody has anything on that guy. And then also tied in second, it would be Corey Connors. Dustin Johnson making a run for it right now. He is +2 on the day, but 2 under par for the tournament right now. Sam Stevens has been making a good run. He's still tied for second right now. Xander Schauffele also tied for second. And then we get to the T7s and Justin Rose, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy. You've got Nicholas Norgard. He's in the mix. Matt Fitzpatrick, Max Grazerman is making some headway there. You've got Benjamin James, which is a pretty surprising name to me. And then Brian Harmon, Ludwig Aubert. All those guys conclude who are under 1, and then everybody else is even or worse. Let's check in on our guy. Let's check in on our guy that was doing not too hot yesterday. Let's see, where is he at right now? Oh, is he doing better today? You remember who I'm talking about? Hamilton Coleman?
I do remember you mentioning him.
Yeah, well, he was doing the worst yesterday. And I can't find him.
He may have went home.
Well, Jason Day is the only one who is withdrawn so far. Oh, there he is. He doesn't get started till 11:45, so he's still over 11. And he's also an amateur. He's only 18 years old, so we do cut him some slack. So good thing that he is out there. But this is now who's doing the worst. Arne Svensson. He is 20 over.
No breakfast.
No breakfast for that guy. He is 6 over on the day. He went... Yeah, he's not doing very hot right now, but we can cut him some slack because he is also, oh my goodness, we can cut him some slack because he's also a amateur. But Rocco Paolo Repito Taylor, he is 18 over. Why are we focusing on all these terrible people, Jay? I don't really know, but my cousin in the golf world, Matthias Schmid, is 14 over. Now, that is a person that you cannot give any slack to because this is a dude who was in the running a few weeks ago for top of the leaderboard.
And he's ruining your name.
He is ruining my name. That's why he dropped the T, because he's not fooling me. He's not fooling me. He had to drop the T. That's just illegal for him to have that right there. But those, for some reason, are your updates on who's doing terrible right now. Wyndham Clark is right now your outright leader. William Mao right behind him, tied with let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people in second. Sam Stevens still hasn't kicked off his golf day. He will get started a little bit after noon today, and hopefully there's no delays on today because they got to make up for going on real late yesterday evening because of the delay that they had there. Rory's going to be starting around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Ludwig around the same time. Keegan Bradley around the same time. John Rahm, as you guys mentioned, as I heard Greg just mention a little bit, is +2 on the day. And Tommy Fleetwood, also another big name that is going to be starting around 1 o'clock. And then let's take a look at where the number 1 golfer in the world is. He'll be starting at 124 today. He is T41 +2. He is 2 over par on the day. So those are your U.S. Open updates. A lot in the world of the World Cup. But when we hit this break and come back on the other side, we're going to be talking all things in the NBA with Andy Schiffman. And I'm going to try my hardest to make sure we make this as concise as possible. But I guarantee you people, it will not be. So already be prepared to be let down. But be prepared for a lot of basketball talk that comes your way next right here on Wolo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Chris Price here with Metro Builders. If you were anywhere in the Mid-South lately, you felt it. High winds, hail, and storms rolling through hard. And here's the truth. If your roof took a hit, you may not see it yet. Hail and wind damage shingles can compromise your roof, opening the door for water intrusion. And once it gets in, the damage spreads fast. Ceilings, walls, insulation, even mold. That's why the sooner we inspect, the less damage you risk. Right now, Metro Builders has teams all over Memphis performing free inspections, handling same-day repairs, and providing emergency water mitigation services if needed. We'll show you exactly what we see, document everything, and help you take action before a small problem becomes a big one. Don't wait until you see water inside. Call me. 901-375-1717. That's 901-375-1717, or book your inspection online at metrobuildersmemphis.com. That's Metro Builders Memphis. We don't just build, we build world class.
We talk all the time about what a fantastic neighborhood bar Bell Tavern is, but don't just take our word for it. Go to Yelp and see all the great things other people have said about Bell Tavern. Person after person talks about the cool atmosphere in Bell Tavern. They rhapsodize about how friendly they thought the staff was. They go on and on about what an amazing find Bell Tavern is. Tucked in Barbaro Alley, downtown. People from all over the country pat themselves on the back for discovering Bell Tavern. You can pat yourself on the back for finding Bell Tavern too. Go ahead. Feel smug.
At Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike, it's the Volkswagen Driver Days event, and it's drivers wanted. If you're looking for sporty, we Gossett 2026 Jetta S. Just $249 a month, $249 a month for Jetta S. Luxury just got a new definition in 2026 Tiguan 2.0 TS. Now $269 a month. Brand new Tiguan S, $269 a month. And right now, Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike's got 2026 Atlas SE, only $329 a month. That's only $329 a month for a brand new Atlas SE. Ready for a new ride? We got you covered at Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike, 1875 Covington Pike, or shop online anytime at GossettVWMemphis.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Atlas TC 564,681, MSRP 41,911, Jetta TMO 312,217, MSRP 25,791, Tiguan TMO 43,763, MSRP 32,881. Includes all rebates and incentives. Must be financed through Volkswagen Credit PF 895. Excludes tax title license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer in 6/30/26 dealer stock only.
The Cup is taking over the U.S., and only DraftKings has you fully covered. The DraftKings Sports app is now available in all 50 states. Sweat all the matches you love, all in one place with one app. New DraftKings customers, sign up with code HERD. Spend $5 to get $200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code HERD. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Bet with DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. Bet tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Void in Ontario. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Sportsbook bonus bets expire in 7 days. $50 in predictions dollars issued weekly for 3 weeks. Expire in 1 year. Redeem one non-withdrawable reward. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Ends June 28th. Terms at dkng.co/audio.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Hey, maybe some man will take things over.
Welcome back into Wolo and Friends on this fantastic Friday. We got to shift our conversation to the man that talks everything NBA. That is our man, our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman. And first off, Andy, the biggest news that's coming out of your neck of the woods is that the Bulls are finalizing a deal to hire Tiago Splitter from the Trailblazers. And you have to give this guy a lot of props for what he was able to accomplish with that Portland team. What do you make of this hire for the Chicago Bulls?
Look, morning, guys. I think it's a great hire by the Bulls. I think Thiago checked a lot of boxes that if you're a franchise in the NBA where you're kind of turning the page anew and rebuilding, right? And that's really what the Bulls need to do, because for years they were just kind of in purgatory where they were content with maybe making the play-in game or trying to make this push to make the playoffs in the play-in game, but not really have a chance to compete in the playoffs, but not really tank. And so you really need some fresh blood in there. And so I love the hire because you get a relatively young coach. You get a former player obviously played for many years in the NBA with the Spurs, played for, I think, a year at Philadelphia, and played overseas for a little bit. So you've got a coach who is now can see things and articulate things from a player's perspective, which is always valuable. He is relatively young. He's going to have a lot of positive energy. And to your point, like, he's been a head coach, and he's had success as a head coach in Portland. Mm-hmm. And I think the big issue with Portland, which is not news to anyone, is Tiago Splitter was with the Portland Trail Blazers, and they were really cheaping out on him, right? And they're trying to hire a new coach now. They didn't retain Tiago. I think the average salary for a coach in the NBA is probably north of $4 million or so,
Mm-hmm.
and Portland's trying to find a coach that'll accept about $1 million, and they're not shy about that. And so it's a bit of a head scratcher to me, because if you're Portland and you have an opportunity to continue to build on the success you've had last couple of years, where you have made the playoffs and you've grown and you've shown that you've done a good job in the draft, and now you're just for pinching pennies, you're letting the coach that took you there walk, who obviously took over after Chauncey Billups from that whole debacle. So for the Bulls, I really like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have some decisions to make this offseason. They're going to have some good, valuable draft picks as well. But I think they got a really good coach.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it's been a really good move for them. Before we get into anything else, what did you make of the finals? It only went to 5 games. It's pretty short, but what were your takeaways?
I absolutely loved every second of it, just as a fan.
Yeah.
It was arguably one of the best finals that I've seen. And I think you could look, I mean, would I have loved to see as a fan, right? 7-game series? Sure. Who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah.
But just the back and forth and what the Knicks were able to do,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that, what was it? The game 4, the 29-point comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, watching that was absolutely stunning. It was incredible. It was exasperating. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean, it's like words can't even describe that performance. And I think it's a really good illustration of how valuable a roster can be
Mm-hmm.
when you have continuity, when you've got guys that have played together for many years, and you've got that in the Knicks, right? And on the flip side, you saw the fumbles by the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
which I know it's cliche to say, but I do think it matters. You got a young group of players that just haven't done that before. They haven't been there. They haven't gone that far before together. They'll continue to learn from this experience. They will be really, really good. I think they can very well be right back in the finals next year. I still think it could be OKC or San Antonio with the
Mm-hmm.
coin toss. But the Knicks now are going to have a tough summer, right? Because just, I believe yesterday, James Dolan, the owner, came out and said he does not want to go into the punitive second apron in the NBA in terms of salary and spending to just keep their team together. And Mitchell Robinson's a free agent. I have Miles McBride there, who's extension eligible this summer. The new salary wouldn't kick in for 2 years, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
I know there's been talk about, do they try to move Pat because he is an albatross of a contract, but he was very good in the playoffs. And I think that's very hard to move. So I don't really know what they're going to do. I could potentially see them moving a Mikal Bridges. I don't see them moving a Josh Hart
Mm-hmm.
or obviously Brunson. I mean, those guys are obviously the core part of the group there. We'll see what happens with some of the back end roster guys in Alvarado and Clarkson. We have Tyler Kolek there. We'll see what happens there. So I'm not necessarily ready to say they're going to be front runners for a championship next year, depending on what happens with their core this summer. But it was a bit surprising to hear James Dolan right away come out after a championship and say, you know, I don't care how good we are. I'm not spending money and going into this second apron. And that's his reputation around the league, right? He's kind of been known to never want to incur those penalties. But I just think in the finals in general, it was off.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just remember watching all of these games, and it got to the point where it was like it didn't matter how big the insurmountable lead that the Spurs obtained. It was just like, well, Knicks saw that and said,
it was going to happen. It's just a matter of
it was
time.
like the Knicks saw that and said, well, that looks pretty. It would be a shame if somebody took it, and then they took it for basically every single game. So definitely really, really excited to watch. So in that postseason run, the Knicks end up going 16-3, which is almost near perfection, only really struggling against the Hawks. How much can we attribute this postseason success to Mike Brown, who was fired by the Kings back in 2024 and now has 2026 finals as on his list of accolades?
Look, I definitely think a lot of it. He's had success in Cleveland. He did not have success. Put it this way. Recently in Sacramento, he didn't really have success. But keep in mind, I do believe he did have, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think he took it into the playoffs and did have some success with Sacramento a few years ago when they were just going nowhere for several years. And so I think Mike is a good coach. I think one thing that I think is not really talked about, like I can say this because I have players who played for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The coach who Mike Brown replaced, Tom Thibodeau, was very difficult to play for at times. And I think that kind of all came to a head his last year, and there's a reason they didn't really, they didn't beat the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals to go to the championship, right? And a lot of that was just Tibbs' system of only playing an 8-man rotation, guys being worn down. And I know that really frustrated a lot of the Knicks players, just the lack of extra bodies coming off the bench and the depth and just how much he kind of runs these guys into the ground and looking just the stubbornness of it all, right? So I think Mike Brown is a great coach with this team. I think it was also just very refreshing. But like I said, is it all coaching? Not necessarily, no. I think a lot of it is just the fact that these guys have played together for so long, and you have an absolute stud in Jalen Brunson. And obviously, like, Josh Hart is a perfect player to play alongside Brunson because he does not need the ball in his hands to make an impact. And all the little things he does is so noticeable, especially on that stage. But then you just look across the roster, right? Like, you've got a guy coming off the bench, biggest offensive rebound in NBA history, Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, the whole hack of Robinson, that has to be addressed. But you've got a huge, there is so much value in having a huge body up front, especially coming off the bench to spell Karl Anthony Towns and he's in foul trouble despite all the missed free throws. I mean, just his activity on the glass. He's probably one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA, Mitchell Robinson, if not the best.
Yeah.
So I just think top to bottom, it's a very well-constructed roster, but this did not happen overnight. They all grew together over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. And especially, I think one of the most interesting things about this Knicks team is it wasn't necessarily a compilation of NBA draft picks. It was heavily focused on the free agency and in trades and just acquiring all these guys. So it shows that it can be done in many different formats. So after the NBA Finals came to a glorious conclusion with the Knicks being winners, a lot of people were pretty quick to claim that Jalen Brunson is now the greatest Knick of all time. Would you go as far as to say that he is, or is Patrick Ewing and or is there somebody else up there still?
Well, look, I think it's all relative to the era you live in, right? And we didn't really necessarily grow up watching Patrick Ewing and Knicks games every single night,
right?
But look, where I'm sitting, I would agree, what he does. I mean, I think maybe Patrick Ewing was dominant in his era, sure, but this team doesn't win without Jalen Brunson at the helm. This team doesn't win the comeback games they've won, specifically the 22-point deficit against Cleveland, the game that I was at, and then obviously this game 4 without Brunson just taking over. And I think in today's NBA, you see these elite superstars, like, guards specifically, SGA, Brunson, obviously, in his prime, Curry, being able to dominate a game, dominate every single possession throughout a quarter, and go on these scoring runs themselves. And I mean, again, I probably didn't watch enough of it back in the day and can't really recall, but I don't really think Patrick Ewing is very dominant, but we're just sitting there like every single possession he's scoring 10, 12, 14 straight points and just putting his stamp on the game and leading this comeback every single night. Again, not for me to say, can't really remember, but yeah, I would put Brunson as the best Knick of all time after this performance.
Yeah, well, I can easily say, Andy, if you don't remember, I certainly don't remember because because I'm a little bit
different time.
Yeah, a little bit less in the age department there for really just about everybody that I talk to. So I've definitely got a different perspective going on here. Well, the next big thing happening in the NBA is the draft, and I'm sure this is a question that nobody has asked you yet. But who would you like to see, ideally, the Grizzlies take at that number 3 spot?
Look, if I'm a Grizzlies fan, there's a lot of big-time talent they'll have access to at 3. And I think the consensus right now is you're going to have Debance to go 1 and Darren Peterson from Kansas go 2. Now, I do believe if for whatever reason Utah is picking 2, decides to go with a Cameron Boozer or, let's say, a Caleb Wilson forward from North Carolina, and Darren Peterson somehow is there at 3, I think the Grizzlies take him. I could almost assure you the Grizzlies would take him, which I think would be a home run.
Yeah.
He has that DNA we just talked about, right? The ability to take over a game. Let's assume Peterson's off the board. I know Dave and I have talked about it. You and I have talked about it. Cameron Boozer potentially at 3. I mean, I think you're making the right choice with Boozer. I think you're doing a great job making the right choice with Caleb Wilson potentially. And if I'm the Grizzlies, I think you have to address somehow getting a point guard, whether it's at 3 or whether it's at 16. And so, I actually really like Kingston Fleming from Houston. I like Darius Acuff from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to look at one of those two guys potentially, because if they go with a more of a forward with Caleb Wilson or Boozer at 3, Acuff or Fleming or even Keaton Vogler from Illinois, those guys are not going to be there at 16. So I think if you go that route with more of a bigger body at 3, then what does Zach do, right? Does he try and somehow package something together to move up, maybe at 6, 7, or 8 to somehow grab one of those elite level guards? Potentially. We've seen that before. He can be creative on draft night. I think if they don't think they can do that, then at 16, I think you could potentially go after a LeBaron Philon from Alabama. You could potentially go after a Christian Anderson from Texas Tech. Our guy, one of my guys, Bennett Sturt, he could be there at 16. I know the Grizzlies like him. I'm hoping that he wanted to be there by that point in time. But I think the Grizzlies also, look, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pick movement on draft night. We've seen this every single year.
Yes.
Teams like OKC with picks 12 and 17. Do they keep both those picks knowing they may have a roster crunch? Charlotte picking 14 and 18. I could definitely see them getting rid of pick 18 and just keeping 14. I could see the Grizzlies trying to package the 16th pick with maybe a Santi Aldama. I could see him being moved on draft night. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement, and I would not count out the Grizzlies moving from 16 and trying to move up to try and get one of those elite level guards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you were saying, it feels like that 1 through 3 picks are just inevitable and locked, unless, barring a miracle, AJ doesn't go 1, Darren doesn't go 2, and Cam doesn't go 3. I'm sure. I'm sure that's basically what we're going to be looking at on draft night. But it also seems that the overall consensus is at that number 3 spot. It's really hard for the Grizzlies to mess it up. It's hard for them to get to a place where they pick somebody that is not going to be a superstar, because this draft is so draft heavy. But like you were mentioning with the packages in the and the potential of changing in the spots, I know that the Nets have been very outspoken about wanting to maybe trade down in the draft for their number 6 spot. Is that ideally something you could see the Grizzlies moving their 16 up, or like you were mentioning to those other teams that I didn't even think about, maybe trading up or trading away that second round pick, that number 32 pick, to maybe go and get 3 first round picks? I mean, you were saying that basically anything could happen, but should that do happen with these Grizzlies teams, how does that then change the format for how they approach draft night?
Well, I think you have to have a very open mind going into the draft, and for sure, I think that Zach Kleiman is talking to every single team picking the lottery and probably trying to see if there is a way to acquire another lottery pick to get one of those players if he does not think there's anyone at 16 that A, fits their need, and B, really is just like the best player available that they really covet, right? So I think right now there's for sure a lot of conversations, and I'm sure he's looking up and down his roster and trying to potentially move some pieces. KCP has a ridiculously expensive $21.6 million player option that he's definitely going to exercise. I'm sure Zach would love to try and move off of that. That's a tall task. Like I said, I think that Santi is a very, very tradable contract. I could see him being moved. He's $17 million followed by a team option the following season. That would be, I think that'd be valuable if they can move him and potentially free up some money, or use that to flip Santi and get another pick with also moving 16. Obviously, the elephant in the room is what do they do with Ja? That's going to be a tough one, I'll tell you. I mean, there's just no takers out there for Ja, and seemingly the consensus is there was really only one at the trade deadline in Sacramento, and now you've got Sacramento with a lottery pick. They probably feel pretty good about trying to go out there and get an elite level guard for a fraction of the cost where they're picking. And I think if you're the Grizzlies, I think that I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a head scratcher to me to see what will happen with Ja. And at this point, I would not rule out seeing Ja Morant in a Grizzlies uniform at the start of the season. I do not believe that is the goal by any means. But I think if you're Zach, you have to really consider sweetening the pot if you really do just want to get off of him but I think it's going to be very, very difficult. But yes, to your point, Brooklyn will be very active. They're having a lot of conversations. I saw an article yesterday. They're free agency. They're already going out there and trying to target Austin Reeves and offer him a massive contract.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, to your point also, Lynn, like, yes, the Grizzlies, I don't see any way they make a poor decision at 3. Now, you might look up 2 or 3 or 4 years from now and say, oh, well, they could have had whoever that wins 6-6 and he's turned into an all-star. Hindsight of 2020, you can't be a Monday morning quarterback years later. At this point in time, you're not making a poor decision by taking any one of these players we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a matter of how things play out in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I couldn't have said it any better myself, so we'll just leave it at that. But, Andy, that is all the time that we have for this week. Like it happens every single time that we talk. I feel like we could talk all day long about the NBA and never get tired of it. But, unfortunately, next week I got to hand the reins back to Wolo. He'll be returning, so I'll just be talking to you on the phone, getting you set up for Wolo next week. But it's always been a pleasure, my friend. You have a good one, all right?
Likewise. Have a great weekend.
All right, you as well. That's our man, Andy Schiffman, on the other side, changing the conversation once more and wrapping up this week with the good old-fashioned talk of everything Memphis. That comes your way next with Jonah Dillon right here on Wolo and Friends.
Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Available locally on your radio dial as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, it's easy to stay tuned to Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You know that feeling when something is supposed to be complicated and then it's not? That's the Dobbs Brothers way. For your new Chevrolet, there's no games, no runaround, no surprises. Just straight answers from people who actually mean them. Buying a car shouldn't feel like a battle. And at Dobbs Brothers Chevrolet, it doesn't. Trust, transparency, and driving our community forward. That's the Dobbs Brothers way. Shop Dobbs Brothers Chevrolet of Bartlett today.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Incorporated, Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
If you're still using a sports book to bet on the soccer tournament, you're getting robbed. Delete that app and join the millions using Polymarket. Polymarket's a prediction market, not a sports book. You trade against other fans, not the house. Polymarket, your go-to prediction market for soccer's biggest stage. Available in all 50 states. Download the Polymarket app, use promo code CORNER to unlock $50 free for your first trade. That's promo code CORNER. Trading not available in all jurisdictions. Check local regulations before trading. Restrictions and eligibility apply.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome back into Wolo and Friends as we get ready to conclude this week talking all things Memphis with Jonah Dillon. And Jonah, before we get to anything else, we had the incredible privilege of talking with your coworker Jason Munns earlier this week, answering one of life's biggest and best questions, and that is, who in Memphis has the best chicken tenders? Now, we got Jason's answer. Would you like to weigh in on what you believe is Memphis's best chicken tenders?
Unfortunately, I can't weigh in because I remember when I moved to Memphis, everyone was asking me, like, you know, what's your favorite this, what's your favorite that? Yeah. And the thing that I had to reveal on every single show is that I'm actually a vegetarian.
Really?
And so I have to respectfully say that I have to take myself out of this conversation.
Wow. So you're I was going to say you're an unbiased judge, but I guess you just can't even be a judge for this.
Yeah, I don't think I'm even a judge at all yet. Exactly.
Well, interestingly enough, we definitely got the answer from Jason. What did he say? He said something like bar dog or something like that. So I guess the next one has to be more vegetarian friendly so that you can be involved. I don't think we want to keep you locked out of any of these competitions. They got to be good ones, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm still waiting. I know we've done a lot of these commercial appeals, done a lot of these like brackets or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we need So I'm obviously, as the journalist cliche, I'm a huge coffee drinker. I think we need a best coffee in Memphis.
That would be a great one.
I think we need a full bracket because there's a lot of contenders out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll definitely pitch that, and then I'll be asking you about it when it inevitably comes around, because you guys are basically hitting all the food groups. Why not include coffee? I think that's going to be user and listener friendly for everyone involved. So I'm glad we got to the bottom of this, Jonah. I'm going to be looking for big things coming out of the commercial appeal here.
Yeah, I know. Now I've got some homework now, so I'm going to go work on it.
Yeah, you got to use your influence. You got to get that bracket out there. You got to let the people know what is the best coffee in the city of Memphis. But I think that would be a really, really good one. So, well, real quickly, with the limited time that we have, there's a lot of news going on right now just all around the college sports world, but I think none perhaps bigger than what is going on with the Protect College Sports Act. It seems that little thing is very complicated and confusing to read and to understand, but I think the main gist that everyone is taking away from it is that it's really hindering the ability for Memphis and really all these other group of 6 teams to strive to get into power conferences. Can you divulge us to the best you can about what this bill is and what stage it's at currently?
Yeah, so the bill is kind of a sweeping piece of legislation about, and you heard Senator Campbell call it a landmark piece of legislation yesterday in that hearing. So essentially, it's a huge thing. It's gonna, if it were to happen and go into law, it would fundamentally change college sports on a lot of different levels. It has a lot. There's things about eligibility, about revenue sharing and paying players, about media rights and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of different things that are involved in this, and obviously, we don't have enough time to get into all of it. Even if we had the full hour, that wouldn't be enough time. So,
not even close.
So the thing that kind of popped out yesterday is an amendment that they added to it, which has to do with, essentially, it has to do with conference realignment. But really, the reason for all that stuff in that section has to do with, it's sort of, some people refer to it as an anti-Super League clause. The goal is to essentially avoid a merger between the Big Ten and the SEC, or potentially other conferences. And so basically, with the language of the bill, which is extremely complicated, and even now you're seeing people kind of reading into it in different ways because it's not super clear who is and isn't part of this. Mm-hmm. But essentially, the long and short of it is that it would freeze conference membership.
Yeah.
Now, the goal of doing that, in my understanding, is, like I said, to prevent a merger among those conferences or from those conferences poaching from each other. But if the way that it does go into effect is that conference membership for the power conferences is frozen and they can't add anybody, then obviously that means a school like Memphis, which has power conference ambitions, is not going to be involved in that anymore. Now, it's worth saying that's a possibility in terms of how this is written, and also there's no guarantee or even close to a guarantee this is actually going to go into law. It's going to happen, so it's not time to press the panic button. But it is interesting in the context of what's going on here that this is something that is being discussed with this bill among all the other things that are part of it.
Yeah. It does seem like there's a lot going on with it right now. But instead of, I guess, confusing our brains, let's focus on something that is really positive happening in the world of Tiger football right now, and that is the announcement and what's underway right now for the exciting renovations that is happening to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium that sound extremely promising. Can you tell us more about what all that includes?
Yeah, so, I mean, the number one thing I would say is that everything is still on track to be done before the season or the home opener against Arkansas State on September 5th. So this project, obviously, when it started, it was supposed to be a 2-year project. We know with construction projects, they don't always start or finish on time, right? And so the idea that that's actually happening, they didn't go way over budget, is really the biggest positive. You heard Ed Scott talk about it. Now, he did his press conference the other day, which he basically kind of laid out some of the updated features that are going to be part of the stadium. And a lot of them are things that weren't in the original plans and things that kind of will affect everybody at the games, like a new sound system, updated scoreboard, stuff like that. Whereas obviously the main thing with the renovation is the redone West Tower and all the suites that are going to be over there. But that's only going to affect obviously the people who are sitting there. So there were a lot of other things that he wanted to kind of emphasize that everybody going to the stadium will be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like it sounds like all of these renovations are leading to basically what is practically a new stadium for these guys, which honestly, if this bill doesn't go through, which it would be a huge step in the right direction for potential for Memphis to move on to a power conference. But you and I both know that you can look pretty and you can have all the aesthetics in the world, but you need the product on the field to match 100%. So based on where it is right now, and I know it's pretty difficult because we're still pretty far and pretty fresh into the offseason, from what you've observed from this Tiger football team, how confident are you on all the facets of this Tiger football team so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to kind of see a lot of the, like preseason projections are coming out and stuff like that. And you're seeing kind of all over the place in terms of the conference, which I think is what everyone's kind of expecting because there's so many unknowns, not only with Memphis, but really with almost all the teams at the top of the American Conference are expected to be at the top of the American Conference. And so when I look at this Memphis team and I look at the roster and the talent on it, I think it's reasonable to look at them and say, I think they could win this conference. And it's not a crazy thing to say. At the same time, there's a lot of other teams that I would look at and I would say the same thing about, right? It's just about kind of nitpicking on whose questions are the biggest and who's going to have the best quarterback play and whose new roster is going to gel together and which coaches that are kind of untested at this level are going to succeed and stuff like that. But I think Memphis is definitely going to be in the mix. When we get to closer to the start of the season and we look at those projections, I think you're going to see Memphis near the top in a lot of picks, and it's not going to be shocking at all to see Memphis pick to win the conference or pick to go to the college football playoff. I think they're definitely in the mix. There's no runaway favorite, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm excited for it, and especially the slate of away games that they have, especially going to UNLV and Boise State. Going to be big games to really kind of solidify and prove that Memphis really does belong in that. But I guess there's nothing left to it but to just see it in action on the field. So real quickly, I feel like I have to ask you, and I feel like I have to mention you with the news of Brian Kelly being an unofficial consultant for this Tiger football team. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things with Charles Huff, right? He's been doing that throughout the spring, and I would expect still into the summer. He had Charlie Strong here, he had Jimbo Fisher here, so he wants to lean on these types of coaches, and Brian Kelly is one of them. They wanted to have Brian Kelly out here, but I think they're going to talk to him again more, in the fall, and maybe getting into recruiting in the transfer portal. And so it's interesting. One of the things Charles Huff said throughout he said in the spring is we talk about players needing to improve themselves all the time, and coaches have to do it too. And he's been kind of taking that really seriously and spending time with these guys and talking to them. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he learns from all those conversations and how that helps his program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you couldn't have said it any better. And I think when it comes to Charles Huff, he is just killing it when it comes to press conferences and confidence and just the way he speaks and articulates things. It seems like Memphis Tiger football is in some pretty good hands right now, but we're going to keep checking in with you week after week. I have to hand the reins back over to Wolo, but Jonah, it's been a pleasure talking with you. It always is. And so we'll talk with you next week.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That is our friend Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal covering Tiger football. And he really covers just about everything that goes on in the world of Memphis. If you need anything, any kind of updates on anything going on, you can follow all of our friends at the Commercial Appeal. Jason Munns at Munsley. You can follow Jonah Dillon at the Jonah Dillon on Twitter. These guys give you updates left and right. You can also follow DeMichael Cole for all your Grizzlies stuff at DeMichael Cole, it's D Cole, it's DeMichael C. DeMichael C. That's what he is on Twitter. Follow all these guys. If you want any updates on what's going on in the world of Memphis, those are your go-to people. But that is going to do it for us this week. It has been absolute pleasure to be able to talk with all of you guys. I thank Darian in the beginning of the week hanging with me, and then J-Ham filling in with really no sweat whatsoever. It has been a great time. It's been a really fun time, but as they always say, all good things must eventually come to an end. But Wolo will be back with us this coming Monday. But on the other side of everything else, we've got Happy Hour with Johnny Radio, with Jay Ham, with Jared up in the house. We also want to give a special shout out and thank you to Wolo's sponsors in Southern Security, Family Leisure, which is the studio in which all of these shows take place, and of course Landers Cadillac, who's usually brings you Jonah Dillon because he's the Cadillac of beat writers when it comes to the Commercial Appeal. But once again, it has been a lot of fun. Don't go anywhere. Happy Hour is right around the corner, and as always, my friends,